we work with a lot of founders, and, a lot of the founders listening to this are probably not marketers. We, see a lot of index on product or technical, but they know they need to hire their first marketing leader. What is the most important thing they need to be honest with themselves about before even like getting into the search process?
Budget and results. That is the first thing that a good marketing leader will ask you about is what they'll ask you what success looks like, and usually that's in terms of like what amount of pipeline do you expect me to drive for the company, and what budget are you going to give me to do that? And if there is a real mismatch between those two, and you see this so often in early stage, especially first time founders, where they're like, oh, we're going to triple, triple, double, double, but I'm not going to increase your budget. Like that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
have AI now. You should be able to do it.
right, exactly. That is not going to happen. You're looking for a magician, not a marketer.
Yeah.
So that's the number one thing is you just and there needs to be a formula behind it, by the way, because the next question they're going to ask you when you say this is the budget is they're going to say, how did you come up with that number? And show me the logic you used to determine that by giving me this much additional money, it's going to produce that result. And usually what you find with founders is they've made up a number. And a good marketing candidate is going to come back to you and say, okay, let's break it down together. Let's do a little data exercise where we look back at historically what's driven your pipeline and how much it has cost you to drive those results. And then let's extrapolate from that on what might be possible. And we can factor in some efficiency and some, magical marketing dust sprinkled on top or whatever. But there needs to be data behind those assumptions, and they need to be realistic, even if they are a bit challenging. And so I think expect to be challenged if you're a founder. And if you're not challenged, that might be a red flag.
I think that's great advice. This one is a favorite question because it's happened to me before. So you're at dinner, you're at a fun dinner, maybe some founders there, and they're like, we need to find a great marketer. How do we find someone like you? How do you answer that question?
Oh boy.
I know, it's one of my favorite ones. Like, what are one of the 2 or 3 things you'd actually tell them? I actually had this conversation with someone yesterday, which was
If they
funny.
were asking how to find somebody like me, I that's probably a different answer than how do you find a great marketer, because I
Yeah.
wouldn't
How
say
to find someone like you.
so somebody like me. I mean, I would say that what makes me me, first of all, is I mean, a lot of people know me from my LinkedIn presence, which I think is so funny because I'm really introverted. But it's become a thing. But what makes me truly me and what I like and what I thrive with in terms of marketing roles is I do love the earlier stages of marketing, which doesn't mean I only ever want to work in early stage companies. It means I like the fast pace and the growth. I would not do well in a company that was overly bureaucratic, slow to make decisions, and that had like existing processes in place. I once interviewed for a PE-backed company and was told, if you work for a company in this particular PE's portfolio, you're going to have to just use their growth system. They have a playbook, you're going to have to implement it. And I was like, no, thank you. I'm out. So that's just me. Like there are marketers who've gotten amazing results working in that kind of a system and who are great at it and who love it. And that's awesome. But I'm a person who likes the creativity, the innovation, the fast moving pace of an early stage company. And so I think you have to look for people that are passionate about those things. But who also understand what it means to build a team, to create a solid foundation that's going to sustain growth. And I think the most important thing is you have to look for somebody that you can personally work well with and trust. And I talk about this all the time with my CEO, which is that like I could be the best marketer in the world, but if she doesn't trust me, if we don't communicate well and communicate honestly, it really doesn't matter. That is the number one success factor, in my opinion, between CEOs and CMOs is the trust and the relationship. And so you have to look for somebody that you feel that for.
Yeah, I think that's a really underrated one too.
Absolutely.
You really need. So for any founder who's listening who maybe hasn't made that first marketing hire yet, maybe they're, 3 to 6 months away, what's something they should be doing right now to prepare for that before thinking about the job description, like even, engaging a recruiter, starting to work their network? What's, one quintessential thing you would tell them to do?
Oh, that is a really good question. I think you should be doing your homework on what you think your targets are that you're going to ask this marketer to hit. Like, what is the definition of success for the role? And doing your research to back that up with data, to have that data ready. You should have a perspective on how much information you're willing to share on the company. A good candidate's going to ask to see board decks, financials, and they'll be, they'll sign an NDA, they'll do all of those things, but it's almost like putting a data room together for your hire.
Yeah, that's a
I would
yeah.
get all that together, and then I would really start to think about what aspect of marketing does this person need to have as their superpower? Because very often in interview processes, when I've been interviewed, I'm typically asked, are you more of a demand gen leader, a brand marketer, or a product marketer? Those tend to be the main three areas that a company needs somebody to excel in. And the person that excels in one of those is very different than the person that excels in the others. And so you have to understand what you need at that stage in time. So if you're really early stage and you don't have product market fit, you're not looking for a brand marketer. Certainly, you may be looking for product or demand gen. It just depends on whether your focus is more on demand experiments and trying to figure out the channels, or if it's like really being able to translate. If you think you've got a great product and it's being able to educate the market about that and explain what it is you do and how that solves people's problems, that's probably more of a product marketer. And so I think just knowing like what is the real problem that you need to solve first is going to help you figure out how you want that marketing leader to index. Do you want them to be more indexed on product marketing, on brand, on demand? That'll help you go into those interviews with a much better sense for what you're looking for.